Chapter 9. Fullness. 12:10 p.m. But if Yahweh isn't God, then who is he?
That's an excellent question to answer after lunch.
She replied in a playful tone.
Do you have anything that isn't supposed to be cooked in the microwave?
As a matter of fact, I don't.
How can you stand eating those things all this time?
Well, laziness, and a certain ineptitude for cooking.
Typical, no doubt. Where can we get a decent meal around here?
I think we can find something in the village, about 10 kilometers from here.
Then let's go.
But I have a full fridge. What's the need?
Get over your laziness and put curiosity aside for a bit. Let's go eat decent food. I hate pre-cooked meals. And let's also stop by a supermarket and buy some real food.
Are you thinking of moving in with me?
For a while.
And with that, she gave me a look that could melt the stoniest of men.
Why? Don't you want me to?
After the way she looked at me, it was impossible for any man to say no. I think that at that moment, at that precise moment, I could understand the power this woman had. If she wanted something, it was impossible to deny her. Do I have any chance to refute? Do I have any chance to refute? I asked in a tone between pretending to resign to your presence, as if I cared, and prodding for an answer from her.
No.
A resolute and simple no, and with that, the relationship between us was normalized. We set off for the village. Wherever we went, there were always looks with a mix of emotions. First, when they looked at her and noticed she was wearing a light summer dress, very loose in the middle of winter. She walked amidst people bundled up in high-neck wool sweaters and waterproof jackets. Of course, in addition to this, there was not only her noticeable body, but also an imposing presence, a haughtiness that placed her on a pedestal above any other mortals. Curiously, the desire I did not feel for her was evident on the faces of all the men, without exception, we crossed paths with, and on some women too. Those who didn't feel desire had eyes inflamed with envy. For the first time, I realized the abnormality of the situation. I, too, should look at her like that. She was the most beautiful creature I had ever seen, and yet beyond the admiration for the person and the appreciation of the aesthetic side, there was nothing more. We arrived at a restaurant with me still thinking about this. We sat down. The waiter came, solicitous and somewhat flustered. He took our orders and left. I couldn't contain myself. Can I ask you something?
Well, that was a question in itself, so you already asked. You should have asked if you could ask too.
She said with a laugh.
But yes, you can. Go ahead.
I see the way all men look at you, and I find it perfectly natural.
So do I.
But I would also find it natural for me to look at you in that way.
But you don't.
Right, why?
Because we have something to do, and you can't be distracted by those things. It would be bad. It would delay us.
But then why does everyone look at you like this? In fact, go in further. What led that woman to kiss you like that, and have that attitude?
You still haven't understood.
Frankly, no. She took a deep breath, looked at me squarely.
Do you want to understand?
I do. It's something that confuses me.
All right, then.
And as she said that, the world seemed to disappear around me, leaving only her in front of me. That presence I admired became overwhelming. The rest of the world ceased to matter. There was only her, and she was beautiful, sublime. I realized that at that moment, I had fallen in love with her, but with a strength and intensity that I thought I didn't possess. All the other women I loved became small, there, in that moment. And this feeling made me feel full, complete, able to move the world at her request. If she had asked for my life at that moment, I would have gladly given it to her and felt grateful for it. And suddenly, as quickly as the sensation appeared, they faded, leaving me with something like a warm and sweet memory of a forgotten love. But she was no longer a giant, and the world had returned to its place.
Do you understand?
I felt, but I can't rationalize.
I'll tell you. I am the part that was lost from Adam. The feminine that comes from Eve is feminine only in the sense that Adam also had a feminine part, just as I have a masculine part. But I am the true feminine. And when I showed it to you, you finally felt complete, didn't you?
This realization hit me like a falling wall, she continued.
You know, humanity's great quest is for me. Not for me as a person, but for what I am. And it's to try to fill this void that people turn everywhere, fill themselves with spiritualism or material goods or whatever it may be. But the void is never filled, people never feel full. And they always want more and more, in an attempt to find me. But they don't find me. They're looking in the wrong place.
I understood her perfectly. It was easy for us to try, more and more, to clutter our lives with ideologies, some of them decadent, or meaningless objects, in the search for a comfort we never found, even amidst the most lavish luxury. And yet, not knowing the alternative, we persisted. I understood the reaction of the woman who kissed her when she let go. For a moment, she glimpsed her own completeness, only to feel torn apart afterwards, and her life would never be the same again. Even mine, only for these brief moments, seemed to have gained something, as if there was something different in me, a security that was beginning to settle in. And for the first time, the question arose clearly. What if this woman is who she claims to be?